Appreciate you tuning in each and every single day. It's a daily show from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. Monday through Friday. Before I popped on, I was kind of just doing some digging, looking around. You guys remember that measure that the state legislatures approved, back during the legislative session? It was signed into law back in July of this year, July 2024. Governor J.B. Pritzker enacted it into law. It's House Bill 4488. Now, there were a couple election omnibuses, House Bill 4488. Then you've got this Senate Bill 2412. Both of these are omnibus bills, and it's kind of tragic how this stuff kind of works out of the state legislature, where they can just take a bill, gut it. So originally, House Bill 4488 was supposed to establish a Crohn's and Colitis Awareness Week, but then it was gutted and replaced with an elections omnibus bill. They're passing legislation regarding election law in the middle of an election year. And it just doesn't feel right, right? So Senate Bill 2412, it was a bill that originally dealt with child welfare, DCFS, child welfare, adopting children, a good bill. And then they gutted it, and then they replaced it, and they tried to get rid of slating candidates. Now, the Illinois Supreme Court said, hey, you can't do that. You can't get rid of slating candidates right before an election year. You can't change the election law before an election year. Are you crazy? We're in the middle of an election process. Also with that bill, it was Senate Bill 2412. I want to clarify that because there were two bills that were election omnibus. They were both crap. But the Senate Bill 2412, that one had these questions on it. Okay, so question number one, it sought the opinion of voters. It deals with penalties for so-called election interference. These were very deceptively worded questions. All three of these questions passed this last election cycle, this last general election. And they were all three of them were very deceptively worded. But there's so much more to that because they passed this bill, the state legislature. They used this bill to get these questions on the ballot, which means it buys up the real estate on the ballot. There's only a certain amount of space on the ballot to get questions on that ballot. So what they did, they bought up all the real estate, folks. Your sitting elected officials in the state house, and Maurice West, he's the guy who had Senate Bill 2412 and House Bill 4488. He was sponsor on both. They were election omnibus bills. Your sitting elected officials, they said, you know what? We don't want citizen initiatives. We want to pass initiatives out of this body, and we're going to buy up all of essentially the real estate on this ballot, so that way the citizens can't put questions on here. We're going to buy up the ballot, and we're going to put all of these questions on the ballot ourselves, and we're going to avoid having citizens ask questions of the voters. So citizen initiatives, because you can, collect petitions, get a question on the ballot. But what they did, it's just so sneaky. It's just so disgusting. They passed all three of these questions to get onto the ballot through the state legislature. And I just think that's wrong. Now, question number one, it passed with 88% of the vote. It had to deal with so-called election interference and protection of election judges or election officials, which is just silly. There's already protections in place for everybody. Okay, it's called equal protection of the law. Why do election officials, get more protection under the law? Now, one thing that you need to know is that these are all non-binding referenda, so it's not law. Okay, so this is just going to kind of give them some gas to pass this stuff at the state level. But it's not currently state law. It just gives them gas, which is really unfortunate, because I love election judges, election officials, the good ones anyway. Mine in Logan County were great. I had a name change, and I was very well taken care of at Logan County. They did a great job. But here's the thing. I'm not pro giving you more protections under the law just because you have a certain occupation, well, a temporary occupation at that. It said something to the effect of like, oh, you will face civil penalties as well as criminal penalties if you threaten or intimidate an election official, which is just silly. Because we already have things in place to protect election officials and to protect people. You don't threaten people, you don't intimidate people, period. There's already laws on the books that we should be enforcing if that were to happen at these polling locations. But like I said, equal protection, you wouldn't give more protections to somebody who has a risky job, right? So, my brother, he works residential construction. It's a little bit of a risky job, right? You're crawling under crawl spaces. A lot of times the foundations of these homes are shaky. So you're crawling into these spaces. Is he going to, have more protections under the law because there's a risk with his job, right? Are we gonna craft legislation to give him more protection under the law just because his job is a little risky? You get paid as an election official. Why in the world do you want more protections than that of anybody else in the state? It's just not right. It's not fair. And we all know what this is really about: civil penalties for candidates who engage in intimidating behavior. That intimidating behavior could be subjective. It could be as simple as, hey, I don't think that I lost in this district. Let's do a recount, right? Or, hey, I see some irregularities or abnormalities in this process. Me as a candidate, I think that we should recount. They could see that as intimidating or threatening. You see the problems that come with this if it were to become law, but this was just a non-binding referendum. 88% of people said yes. Question number 2 dealt with raising taxes on higher incomes. Now, these are millionaires, right? I think it was like a 3% tax on millionaires, which is really, income over $1 million, which is really like sad because I know some millionaires. Now, it's not all tied up. It's kind of all tied up with like farmers. There's plenty of farmers who are millions. I mean, the farm equipment is insane, right? You make a lot of money, but you lose a lot of money. So you have to buy millions of dollars worth of equipment. So yeah, your income might be over $1 million, but you also, in order to keep your business going, you have to pay $1 million. So say you make $3 million as a small corn farmer, which is very, very possible. You're doing well. But you have to buy, $2 million worth of equipment. Then you're making over, or you have to buy like $3 million worth of equipment. So bottom line is, this fair tax, or like this progressive or whatever, Governor J.B. Pritzker has been trying to pass for quite some time, because, he's been trying to pass this. You've said no each time. I think it was twice he's put it on the ballot. But this time they rewarded it, and they got it passed because it's deceptively worded. And the thing is, nobody wins when you increase taxes on the so-called millionaires. You might not be a millionaire. You might only get like, $900,000 worth of income actually, because you had to put all of that money or all of your so-called income back into the business. We're talking small business owners here. That's what they're going after, small business owners. And we already pay some of the highest property taxes in this nation. So that passed with 60% of the vote. Yes, let's raise taxes on the so-called wealthy, the people who make over $1 million, which is only going to come back on you, because then you can't afford to keep people on, the middle-class people, people who make less than $1 million. You can't afford to keep those people on. As, say you operate a small farm and you make $2 million, but you had to put all that right back into equipment because you had a couple of tractors go down, and you've got this tax on you, which is a heavy burden. And then you're like, I can't employ anybody on my farm. I had a couple of farm hands. Now I got to let them go because I can't afford my taxes and I can't afford farming because I've been taxed so much. That's what we're looking at here with question number 2 that passed with 60% of the vote. Question number 3. Oh man, this is just so deceptive. The insurance on IVF, in vitro fertilization. So it asked the opinion of the voters on insurance covering that procedure or covering the reproductive health care. But here's the thing. The way that question is worded, it actually asks you, hey, what's your opinion on insurance covering not only IVF, but also abortion? Look back at that question. The wording there talks about reproductive health. So therefore, it's not just IVF, it's also taxpayer-funded abortions, using Medicaid to pay for not only IVF, but abortion or anything else you might deem necessary for your reproductive health. For example, if you're pregnant and you think, oh, I need a facial. I need a facial in order, a mommy facial, or I need to go get my hair colored before I go and give birth, right? I need that all covered by insurance. I mean, that's how broad and vague this question really is that you could get your reproductive health or whatever you deem necessary as reproductive health, as a part of your reproductive health. You could get all of that paid for by your insurance company. Not only is this a mandate on, insurance companies, like regular insurance companies, but it's also Medicaid. If you have Medicaid, you can get Medicaid to pay for your mommy facial because it's part of your reproductive health care. So deceptively worded, it was disgusting. It had nothing to do or it had a little bit to do with IVF, but really what it's all about is getting Medicaid to pay for abortions. Like I said, these are non-binding referendum. I wanted to walk you through these 3 questions because these 3 questions, the big thing here to take away is that your state legislatures hoarded ballot space so that you, the citizen, could not put on initiatives that you wanted. Okay, there's things like parental right initiatives or school choice initiatives, and you couldn't have put those on the ballot because they bought up all the real estate. As they're the ones who passed this bill that put all these questions on there, and there's only limited space on the ballot. That is what we call, tyranny. That's quite literally tyranny. If you are hoarding the ballot space and strong-arming the voters or the citizens from bringing forward a question to put on the ballot, you're a tyrant, you're a dictator, and anybody who voted yes on House Bill 4488 or Senate Bill 2412, you need to take note. You need to vote those people out because that's disgusting that they passed these election omnibus bills, not only in the middle of an election year, but they passed these and they knew that they were going to buy up all this real estate on that ballot, and they were going to force citizens to not be able to, that they were going to make it to where citizens couldn't put their own questions on. All right, I do have so much to talk about today. I want to talk about Kamala Harris voters. They vowed to not have sex for 4 years. I think it's so funny. Like, yes, that's what we've been saying. Hey, if you aren't willing to deal with the consequences of procreation, an activity that results in creating life, a consensual activity that results in creating that life, then maybe you shouldn't have sex. Okay, that's what we've been saying as conservatives. I think it's so funny that this 4B movement is actually quite conservative. Like, this is exactly what we wanted. Also, the Kamala voters, they are shaving their heads. No, quite literally, they're getting on TikTok. They're shaving their heads in protest of the election results. All right, you guys, I'll be right back. It's Conservative Cat. Find me on YouTube and on Rumble. Subscribe to the channel today. Hey, good morning. So do appreciate you tuning in each and every single day. Yes, smash that like button, share this out with your friends. Think of all the babies that won't be killed either. Yes. So this is exactly what the conservatives wanted. You've got these women out there, saying, oh, I'm not going to have sex anymore in protest, right? And I'm not going to have sex for 4 years because I don't have body autonomy anymore because, that's what they're saying. But really, that is body autonomy. That's you taking control of your life, saying, you know what? No, I'm not going to be having sex with men who don't treat me well or that I'm not willing to have a life with or have children with. I'm going to stop doing that. Yes, yes, that's exactly what we wanted. Also, they're shaving their heads, which I think is absolutely hilarious. Don't know how that's going to get Kamala in office or how that's going to help anybody, but it's funny. um, so, and it's actually helpful to the conservatives, right? At least we know what women or what ones are crazy. And, the conservative men out there, it's a clear indicator of, oh, stay away from this woman. She's unstable and definitely would not make a good wife or a mother. Um, and this is just I'm kind of excited. I think that Kamala Harris voters are finally starting to get it, where it's like, hey, yeah, I'm engaging in a consensual procreation activity. Perhaps I should deal with the consequences of that activity like everything else. Mess around, you find out, right? I mean, with everything, life has consequences. We are going to be getting to Trump's shocking win because he gains more ground than any other GOP candidate since the 1940s. This win is huge. Don't let anybody tell you different. And what they're doing with the House right now and the Senate and these seats is just ridiculous. They're trying to steal this election. The Arizona, what they're doing to Kari Lake. I mean, the math doesn't math. I just looked at it this morning, and we've got Kari Lake. I'm going to look at the numbers here. The math just is not working. You've got, Kari Lake, you got the Donald Trump, he's got all kinds of votes, and then Kari Lake has less votes than that, but nowhere near the votes that he has. So in order for this math to work, what you would have to do is have Trump supporters go in, vote Donald Trump, and then not vote Kari Lake. That's what we're looking at here, folks, is people going in, voting Trump, and then voting the Democrat for Senate. That makes no sense. No sense in this way. They're literally trying to steal. I don't know why they want the Senate seat so bad that we already have a majority in the Senate. They're trying so hard to get this Senate seat and to steal that election in Arizona, which is wacko to me. The math doesn't work. It just doesn't make sense. So yeah, House Democrats got 1.3 million votes. And then Gallego is the guy. She's going up against the Democrat in that area, and he's got 1.47 million votes. And then Kari Lake has 1.425 votes. So he's got more votes than Kari Lake. But the House Republicans, they have nearly 1.5 million votes. So way more votes than the House Democrats. And you've got Kari Lake having less votes than the Democrats, which makes no sense, or than the Democrat there. So the math is not mathing. I do want to talk about California voters as well. They voted on a referendum. It was Proposition, I think 36. There was another one, Proposition, I think 41 or something like that, years ago, where it effectively made crime legal in the state of California, just a few short years ago. And now they're like, hey, maybe we should kind of create a proposition, put it on the ballot, and make crime illegal again. So Californians, they voted to make crime illegal again. Now that, of course, is against Newsom's wishes, because if Newsom had his way, this referendum would not have passed. This question would not have passed, and Proposition 36 wouldn't be a thing. Okay. I don't know. All right, go ahead, smash that like button. We're going to be right back in just a couple of minutes. You're listening to Conservative Cat. The math just isn't mathing. I don't understand how this is possible. You've got 80% or 87% of the Arizona votes counted. Man, are they counting? Like, how does it take you this long? How do you find the results of the presidential election, but somehow it takes you forever to count the votes for these local elections? Like, this is a nationwide office, the presidency, and we figured that out. We counted all those votes. But now we've got the Senate race in Arizona, and it seems like they can't count the votes in time, right? Or they can't count the votes in a timely manner. So you've got 87% of Arizona votes counted. And this is really interesting. The math just is not working. You've got Kari Lake here. She's got 1.4 million rounds about that. 1.4 million, slightly less than Ruben, who has about 1.5 million. Okay, Ruben Gallego is the Democrat she's going up against there, but this makes no sense because Kamala Harris, she got 1.3 million votes for that district in that area, the Senate race there for Kari Lake. So that would mean that people went in, voted for Donald Trump, and then voted Democrat all the way down their ballot, which I just don't believe, especially considering Kari Lake obviously has the endorsement of Donald Trump. Can somebody explain to me how Kari Lake has more votes than Kamala Harris but didn't beat her opponent? It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, and I don't understand why Arizona is taking so long to count their votes. Especially when you've got the results of the presidential election, but you don't have the results of these smaller local elections, the U.S. Senate race in Arizona. How do you not have that? It's wild. It's baffling. We're seeing the election stolen before our very eyes, which it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me, because why would the Democrats want to steal this seat? We already have the majority in the Senate. We have a smaller majority in the Senate. I don't know why they want this Senate seat so damn bad. I do want to talk a little bit more about Kamala Harris voters. They have vowed to not have sex with men for 4 years. That's hilarious. They're also shaving their heads. According to Wikipedia, the 4B movement. It's a 4B movement. Have you heard of this? It's a radical feminist movement, which originated in South Korea back in 2019. Its proponents refuse to date men. They refuse to get married. They refuse to have sex with men or have children. Radical feminists are currently jumping on board with this movement. They're jumping on this movement after the Trump victory, and yeah, their actions are worse than you think. They're actually going insane. I'm going to play a couple of clips. You'll love them. Here we go.
I'm gonna be honest, I was very blindsided by the results this morning. I've decided that cigarettes don't count today, and I honestly might go get a tattoo. But I also have decided that for the next 4 years, I am going to abstain from schmex with men. And funny enough, I actually just broke up with my boyfriend a handful of days before the election, and it had nothing to do with the anticipation of Donald Trump winning this election. It had everything to do with problems within our relationship and massive differences between who we were as people, which was unfortunate and sad. I wish him well, though. But yeah, as a woman, my bodily autonomy matters, and this is my way to exercise sovereignty over that. So I highly encourage any other women that are single and care about progressing women's rights and still fighting for our bodily autonomy to do the same. Delete your dating apps, because we can come together in community, and if you need somebody to cuddle or hold your hand or give you a kiss, I bet you one of your girlfriends would do it, okay? And you don't even have to really be gay, okay? It's okay to have a lot of platonic love for the next 4 years. I think we can look to South Korea and the 4B movement as a point of inspiration for us.
Incredible. These women are delusional. They're absolutely delusional. I do want to play one more few insane posts. I had to cut this one up, but I mean, they refuse to date men. They refuse to. Yes, have body autonomy. Take accountability over your body. Don't engage in a procreation activity if you're not willing to live with the consequences of that activity. I mean, yes, that is what we've been saying as conservatives. I'm so glad that they're hopping onto this movement. Yes, yes, you're supposed to take control of your body and not just sleep around with men if you're not willing to deal with the consequences of that activity. So take a listen to this one.
The first question I'm asking everybody in my life from this moment forward: who did you vote for? If I get anything aside from Kamala, get the out of my face. I am done, honestly. It costs me $0 to cut people off. And in this economy, I'm taking all the free shit I can get.
I think that these people actually believe that Trump is going to get in there and ban life-saving care for pregnant women. If you if you have a miscarriage, or if you need life-saving care from a hospital, they should give that to you. There is no law currently anywhere that prohibits doctors from providing life-saving care to women. And I don't know where they get this nonsense from. I think it's the mainstream media. I think it's that Amber Thurman case, which I've gone through several times on this show and have explained in detail what that was. Amber Thurman was a woman who was pregnant with twins. She didn't want her twins because she got into a career and she wanted to get into an apartment, and she just couldn't afford children. So she decided to drive her happy butt from Georgia all the way to North Carolina, because Georgia has a 6-week ban. So she waited, obviously 7 weeks, to get a surgical abortion in North Carolina. There are no surgical abortions for 7 weeks in Georgia because they have a ban, limitations on abortion in that state. So she drove down to North Carolina. She was late for her appointment, her surgical abortion. They said, do you want to take a medical abortion? Do you want to take these pills where you take them and then you expel the babies and they die, right? Essentially, it forces you to have a miscarriage. These pills are very, very dangerous. Don't understand why we're giving them to women. But they gave her the pills. She drove back up to Georgia despite having free health care in North Carolina. She could have gotten a hotel for a few days, took the pills there, gotten free health care in North Carolina, but she decided not to do that, probably because she didn't have money. I don't know. She went back to Georgia, took the pills there, bled out from these pills because they're very dangerous. And then she waited to go to the hospital. She continued to bleed out. She fainted, and then she finally was taken to the hospital. At that point, the medical professionals did not perform a D&C for whatever reason. I wasn't there in the hospital room, but they didn't perform a D&C, not because of the law. It was likely because she was already too far gone. And when you suffer that kind of bleeding, and to the point where you fainted, you might not be able to undergo a surgery like that. She probably was on her last legs there, going to the hospital. They couldn't save her, but she made all kinds of poor decisions, multiple decisions that were very poor, that ultimately led to that woman's death, which is tragic. It is tragic, and I have all kinds of sympathy for this woman. She died as a result of that, but people are saying, oh, the hospital wouldn't save her, and that's just not true. And if there is any truth to that, where they didn't want to perform the D&C because of the law, wrong. You should perform life-saving care. It's called the Hippocratic Oath. You need to perform life-saving care for women. Also, the law has nothing to do with D&Cs, those procedures, nothing like that with ectopic pregnancies. We're talking about elective abortions, which have been limited to 6 weeks in Georgia. That's it. So I don't know what these people think. This is not how normal people think. I don't know why they're acting like this on the internet, these women. Do they really think Trump voters are going to beg for their forgiveness solely because of this immature stunt where they've vowed off sex and they're starting to shave their heads? I don't think that you're going to hear a lot about this. Has been going on for a long time. By the way, they did this when Hillary Clinton didn't get in. They did this when we got the House in 2022. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about your obvious need. Obviously, you just need attention. Nobody cares about you and your your attention and how you're seeking to get it. All right, I do have to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. The 4B movement, it started in North Korea back in 2019, and it's essentially where women refuse to have sex with men in protest of their, body autonomy or whatever. Now, I don't know if I had to guess why it started in North Korea or South Korea. It's probably because women actually don't have rights in those countries. Not here in America, we have rights as women. In other places, like Middle Eastern countries, you're forced to wear a burqa. You're also forced to not show any ankle. In some of these countries, you're forced to have sex with your husbands, and it doesn't matter if you say no. Here in this country, that's called rape. They don't have those kinds of things over there. Women are not allowed to deny men sex. And in those countries, they're probably in South Korea, if I looked into it more, they probably had good reason to deny men sex. It's most likely because they actually are forced to have sex with men or to have children. Okay, so in other countries, not the U.S. of A., but in other countries, there is a legitimate problem with women's rights. But not here in the Western world. It hasn't been that way in centuries, okay, where women are sold, women are forced to have children. It hasn't been that way for centuries here in the United States. There's laws, there's things I mean, rape is a crime, obviously, here in the United States, which is kind of shocking to think about that other countries don't have those laws. That's really shocking. It would probably be a bit of a culture shock if you were to go to those countries as a woman, and you're forced to kind of wear long skirts, burqas. You can't show any ankle, right? That would be a bit of a culture shock to you because you are not used to that here in the United States. And what really bothers me about this radical movement here in the United States, now I don't know about South Korea, maybe there's some legitimacy to that movement starting in North Korea back in 2019. It would make sense, right? Because those countries, like I said, don't have the laws that we have here in America and the protections for women that we have here. We vote. I mean, we vote, we work, women can literally be and do anything they want in the United States. You want to have sex with all kinds of women? You want to be a whore? You can do that here in America. Nobody's stopping you if you were to do that, if you were to sleep with several guys over in these countries and even like places like India. And if you were to have sex outside of marriage, you would be you would be in a whole lot of trouble, if not killed. So in this country, we even have women who cheat on their husbands, take them to court, divorce them after they're the ones who cheat, and then take the husband's worth, everything that they're worth, and it gets split right down the middle. Only in America can women take their husbands to court, win 90% of the time, because that's how the judicial system works. It's rigged for women. Only in America can women go to court, take their husband for everything that they're worth. And a lot of times you have women in this country who get married for the sole purpose of taking their husband's wealth away from them. They have intentions of leaving them after they get the wealth, after they, get in there, and then they break it off, and then they take the wealth with them once they leave their husbands. That's only possible here in America. You would not be able, women in some countries cannot initiate divorce. You cannot be the one who initiates the divorce. The husband is the one who has to initiate the divorce, even if that's a thing. Some countries don't even know what divorce is, or it's not even in their vocabulary. In these Middle Eastern states, that doesn't happen. They'll just kill you. They'll just kill their wives if their wives are, out there sleeping around or cheating or whatever. They'll just kill you. That's not the case here in America. So, it really bothers me how ungrateful these people are, these radical feminists who are jumping onto this movement, because there's really no reason, not here in America. Okay, now there was a video I saw actually of a woman. She was in a Middle Eastern country. I forget which one. I think it was Iran. She went out and she was, in a bra or in underwear, and she was running up and down the streets in protest of that makes sense. It makes so much sense, that form of feminism over there, because they're not allowed to wear anything outside of a burqa, and they got to cover their ankles. So in protest, which she did, she took off all of her clothes. She left her bra and underwear on. And she started running around in the street. That makes sense. That makes a ton of sense. Here in America, you can wear whatever you want, clearly. Okay. Just go to some of the clubs in downtown Bloomington. You can wear whatever you want. Okay. So it's really, these women are ignorant, they're naive, and this is what the Democrat Party preys upon and what they rely on. These deranged women who are willing to shave their heads and do these immature stunts on social media. Hey, good morning, so do appreciate you tuning in. I am Conservative Cat, and you can tune into my show weekdays 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. Yes, there's a ton of deranged posts. I don't think male Trump voters are going to be begging for their forgiveness solely because they're pulling this immature stunt where they're saying, "Oh, I'm vowing off sex. I don't want to have children. I'm never getting married." Right? This is the 4B movement, which is a radical feminist movement, which I guess started in South Korea back in 2019. And what really makes me upset about this stupid movement, the 4B movement, which I'm actually all for, body autonomy, right? If you aren't willing to deal with the consequences of a procreation activity, a consensual procreation activity, then you probably shouldn't be engaging in that consensual procreation activity, bottom line. And, this is what we wanted from the beginning. You saying, hey, I'm not going to be having sex with men because I'm taking body autonomy. I'm taking accountability over my own life. And I don't want to date men or to have children because I'm not willing to deal with the consequences of it. Yes, this is what we've been saying from the beginning. Do not engage in dating men, having sex with men, or having children. If you don't want to do that, then don't engage in the activity that results in you having children if you don't want children. I mean, duh, right? That's what we wanted from the beginning, us as conservatives. So it's really incredible how delusional these women are. They think that there's going to be this ban on life-saving care for pregnant women under a Donald Trump presidency, which is just ridiculous. I don't know where they get this nonsense from. I think it's the mainstream media, but the fact that the left thought that this kind of outrage was going to carry them to victory shows you how little they actually know about the real issue, about abortion, about what happens in this country as it pertains to women's rights. And what really bothers me about this movement, or about these radical feminists, really, 4B movement, yeah, yes, don't engage in procreational activities if you don't want to have children. Duh. But what bothers me about radical feminists in this country is that they don't understand that in places like Iran, Middle Eastern countries, you can't even initiate divorce, okay, as a woman. You can't wear clothes that show your ankle. You have to keep your ankles covered. You have to keep your face covered. Burqa, right? In those countries, women actually don't have rights, and there's no such thing as rape in those countries, which is really tragic and crazy to think about. That women actually have no rights in some countries. So it's very ungrateful that these people get out there, shave their heads, and act like complete deranged lunatics over Donald Trump becoming president. Your rights aren't going away. There's not going to be this situation where you can't get life-saving care from a hospital in America. We are beyond blessed in this country. Women, only in America can women take their husband to court in a divorce and take them for everything they're worth. and steal from them. Women enter into relationships in this country, marriages in this country, and then they steal money from their husbands in a divorce proceeding. I mean, that's a reality here in America. And actually, I think that's an epidemic. We have women engaging in divorces, initiating divorces with their husbands, and taking them for everything they're worth. And you can only do that here in this country. So I don't know what the point is in acting like this. These women have proven that they are ignorant, naive, and this is obviously the voting base that the left relies on, Democrats rely on. And the most pathetic part is that they have no clue that they are actually political pawns, these women who are shaving their heads and screaming from the rooftops that they're not going to be having sex with men anymore. You are a political pawn for the left. All right, I do want to talk about Trump and how he's done in this. I mean, no matter where you looked, Donald Trump was improving where he did 4 years ago. He's improved everywhere. So this is all according to CNN. He is actually the first Republican to win the popular vote in 20 years. This is a historic win. He beat Kamala in a landslide. The left is absolutely flabbergasted as to why that is. But I'm going to be playing a clip here from CNN. And it talks about how Trump gained in very liberal areas. I mean, he was single digits away from swinging the state of Illinois, deep blue state. He almost got it, folks. So he gained votes in even the most liberal areas, and the left lost votes. So, the fact that these people are acting shocked proves how out of touch they are. How did you not see this coming? I knew it was a possibility. I didn't know it was going to be this big. I knew it was going to be too big to rig. I had a feeling it would be too big to rig, but it's huge, this win. So I will be right back. We're going to unpack Donald Trump's win, how historic it actually is. And then I do want to talk about California, because their voters, they actually passed a state ballot measure despite opposition from Newsom, as I like to call it, Newsom, Gavin Newsom. He was in opposition of this ballot measure. But what this ballot measure does, it reclassifies crime. It reclassifies some theft and drug crimes as felonies. So it makes crime illegal again. We'll be right back with that. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Woohoo! So do appreciate you tuning in. I need to find a rich woman. Yeah, usually it's not the case where women or where men initiate the divorce and then steal the worth of the woman. 9 times out of 10, women are initiating the divorce. I mean, just look up the statistics here. You've got women who initiate the divorces, and men are always the ones who are shafted in the divorce proceedings, where they come out with less than they had when entering into this relationship. Women always come out with more than they had going into the relationship. Men come out of that relationship with less than they had, 9 times out of 10. Yes, yeah. In some cases, that's the case, where women will get into a relationship, but and then they get no help from that husband in the divorce proceedings. But here's the thing. Most likely that man, wasn't a good man when you entered into that marriage, right? If you enter into that marriage and he wasn't willing to, provide or be a protector for you and your family from the very beginning, you cannot expect him to provide for your children after the divorce proceedings or to provide for you after the divorce proceedings. I do think that it is a man's responsibility to protect and provide for the woman even after they split, because that is a commitment you make before God, and you should uphold your commitment to that person till death do you part, right? So even if you aren't together, you still have a commitment to that person. That's the whole essence of divorce proceedings and, splitting and, child support, alimony, things like that. And I totally understand the system. But you have women abusing that system where they enter in solely to get half of the wealth of this man. And it's really sad. But unfortunately, sometimes women enter into relationships where the man was a deadbeat to begin with. And of course, the man you entered into a relationship with and was a deadbeat from the get, he's not going to he's not going to magically become, just because a court says or a judge says, hey, you have to pay alimony or child support or all of these things. Just because a court says that doesn't mean that he's going to do it. If he was a deadbeat to begin with, he's not going to provide for you even after the divorce proceedings. You can't expect that. Manage expectations. That's what I tell people all the time. Manage your expectations. We are going to get to quite a few things this hour. I do want to get to Daniel Penny. The prosecutor actually referred to him not as the defendant, not as Penny, not as Daniel. No, the prosecutor in this case, in this trial, referred to him as the white man. So that is very biased and definitely not something a prosecutor should be doing. I'll be back with that story next here on Conservative Cat. Woohoo! Hey, good morning. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9 The News and Talk of Bloomington Normal. Yes, Donald Trump had improved everywhere he did 4 years. So he's improving everywhere he did 4 years ago. So in 2020, there is no place where he hasn't improved. And he is the first Republican in 20 years to win the popular vote. He beat Kamala Harris in a landslide. And I think it's so funny that the left is flabbergasted by this. They can't even fathom the result here, that he beat Kamala Harris this bad. They're flabbergasted as to why that is. So here's some analysis from CNN, actually, of all places.
Holy Toledo. All right. Trump gained ground in 49 states and the District of Columbia compared to 2020. I went back through the record books. When was the last time a party gained in so many different places? You have to go all the way back to 1992 when Bill Clinton improved upon Michael Dukakis's performance in 49 states, plus the District of Columbia. The bottom line is, no matter where you looked on the map, Kate Baldwin, no matter where you looked, Donald Trump was improving on where he did 4 years ago, except for Washington State. It is no wonder that at this particular point, he looks like he's going to be the first Republican to win the popular vote since George W. Bush back in 2004.
And to pull that off, he gained ground with groups that Republicans do not generally count as part of their winning coalition, or really at all. How much ground did he gain?
Yeah, holy Toledo. It's just like, oh my goodness gracious. These are the types of groups that you would never have thought that Donald Trump would have gained so much support among 8 years ago when he first won against Hillary Clinton. Trump's was the best GOP showing among 18 to 29-year-olds in 20 years. You have to go all the way back to 2004. How about among black voters? It was the best performance for a Republican candidate for president in 48 years since Gerald Ford back in 1976. And among Hispanic voters, the exit polls only go back since 1972. But Donald Trump's performance on Tuesday was the best for a Republican presidential candidate in exit poll history. He literally goes all the way back through history and breaks history. This is what we're talking about, Kate Baldwin. groups that you never thought that Donald Trump would do well among, even for a Republican candidate. That is what he did. If the 2016 election was about Donald Trump breaking through with white working class voters, this election was about breaking through and going to that Democratic coalition and tearing it apart.
And it wasn't just what he did for his own support. It trickled down to helping the Senate and helping in the House.
Yeah. So, a lot of talk this morning and this week is, the GOP is going to have a Senate majority. We don't know if the Republicans are going to have a House majority, but we think that that's the most likely to be the case. But I want you to look at the 2024 House GOP national vote showing. So this is the House popular vote. Currently, the GOP is ahead by 5 points. I expect that to shrink a little bit as some of the California results come in. But if let's just say he wins, the House GOP wins by more than 2.6 points, it will be the best House GOP showing in a presidential year in the House popular vote since 1928. If there's any viewer out there who is that old, God bless you. But the bottom line is it was probably the best House GOP national vote showing during most of our viewers' lifetimes.
There are
in a presidential year.
Yeah. Okay. It's good to see you, Harry. Thank you so much.
Wow. Wow. Yes. So Trump, he gained a lot of ground, even in Illinois, a deep blue state. In mostly liberal areas, we saw the left lose votes, and Trump gained votes in these very liberal areas like Cook County, like Illinois. He was, like I said, single digits from flipping the state. And the fact that these people are acting as like if this is impossible or they're so shocked. And I mean, that proves how out of touch these liberals, this mainstream media actually is. Clearly, if you talk to anybody, I've never met a Kamala Harris supporter, like actually face to face. Most people I interact with on a day to day, they're Trump voters. They're Trump supporters. I do have to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. We'll be right back talking more about Donald Trump's major win this past presidential election cycle. Hey, good morning. So do appreciate you tuning in each and every single day. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel. It's historic. It's still hard to believe. They're shocked that Donald Trump could win this big. I'm not too shocked about Donald Trump winning this big. I'm kind of shocked that they didn't rig it. Okay, as much as I thought they were going to rig it. Okay, you look back at Joe Biden, 81 million votes. Okay, that's kind of an outlier, right? He got 20 million more votes than Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, one of the most popular presidents in history, I'd say, Barack Obama. And he had this 20 million spike. We didn't see that 20 million spike this go around. I didn't think that they weren't going to rig it this election. I was expecting them to rig it. And then Donald Trump, he just comes in and he just runs away with it. Now, had they had that 20 million bump that they had in 2020, which is what I was anticipating, then that's what's hard for me to believe, is that they didn't rig it like they did in 2020. That 20 million votes that Joe Biden got, that spike, I was expecting to see that this go around, but they didn't rig it. I don't know. It makes me feel like uneasy. I'm like, wait a second. So the Democrats are just going to let this happen? I thought for sure that there was going to be some sort of stealing going on. I mean, come on. Now that we know the vote totals, 60, 60, 60, 2020, you see 80, and then in 2024, you see 60 again. There's an outlier there. And statistically, that tells me that it was stolen, that those 20 million, I don't know where those 20 million people went, because they didn't go to Donald Trump either. Those people who voted in the 2020 election just didn't vote this election period, or this election cycle, which is bizarre because it's Donald Trump. If they came out and they voted against Donald Trump, back in 2020, why wouldn't they do it this go around? I don't know. It was very weird. But it is historic. It is historic. And it is kind of hard to believe in that, I didn't think that there was going to be just this 20 million drop off. Woohoo! Hey, good morning. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Yes, the fact that these people are acting so shocked is proof that they're so out of touch. Okay, they're shocked as to why Donald Trump had such a huge win, and that just proves how out of touch they actually are. When I talk to people, they're all voting for Donald Trump. Now, maybe it's because I run with a certain circle of people. I know a few Kamala Harris supporters, but in my day-to-day life, somebody you would call a low information voter, maybe somebody you meet at, the grocery store, just talking in line, somebody who might be a little bit more low information. They were like, no, I'm voting for Donald Trump because I had more money back when he was president. So yeah, I don't know if I could say I'm shocked that Donald Trump won. I'm shocked that there was no 20 million votes that Joe Biden had this back in 2020. He had 81 million votes. Prior to that, Hillary Clinton had like 64 million. Barack Obama had like 66 million, something like that. And fast forward to 2024, Kamala Harris had about the same 60 million votes. Donald Trump actually had way more than her, but I was expecting the 20 million votes that Biden had in 2020 to come out this election cycle and vote for Kamala Harris. And we know now that has to be rigged, right? Where did those 20 million people go? They didn't go to Donald Trump. They just didn't vote this election, which makes no sense, because if they had voted for Joe Biden, they obviously were voting against Donald Trump. But Donald Trump was on the 2024 ticket, so why wouldn't they vote against Donald Trump in this election cycle? It's either those 20 million people were fictitious and they weren't actually real, and those were just mail-in ballots that were dumped, or we didn't go in the rapture, and there's 20 million people who got to go in the rapture and we didn't get to go and we were left behind. I don't know. Or the pandemic, COVID, maybe people died during the COVID-19 pandemic as a result of the vaccine. I don't know. It's just really, really strange statistically when you look at this. 20 million votes. Where'd they go? They're just gone. So in 2016, we saw an unusual outcome where Donald Trump won the presidency with 304 electoral votes, but only 46.1% of the popular vote, and Hillary Clinton had 48.2% of the popular vote. That's a 2.1% margin higher than Donald Trump. And that was insufficient for her victory because she didn't get the electoral votes, right? So this means he's become more popular, and the left's hate for him has just become more unhinged. So as time goes on and as their hate for him continues to just become more and more unhinged, the more popular he gets. So he gained early leads in crucial states like North Carolina, Georgia. The biggest prize of all was winning that crucial battleground state of Pennsylvania. Now, I think the Amish vote definitely showed up for Donald Trump, and that's what took the state of Pennsylvania. Scott Pressler was there. He was a conservative activist who was getting people registered, getting the Amish registered. So with 19 electoral votes, Pennsylvania's victory put Trump closer to that White House. These wins combined, Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, his stronghold in Republican strongholds like Texas, Florida. People were saying, oh, Texas is going to turn blue. Texas is going to turn blue. Never happened. He had such a strong showing in those traditionally Republican states, Texas and Florida, which gave him advantage, of course, in the electoral vote count. So it's not surprising to anyone who's paying attention. Okay, clearly Donald Trump, he resonates with people who are low information, people who might not be engaged in the political process, or is voting every single year, right? Low information voters, people who don't traditionally vote. He resonates with those people. The Amish, right? We saw in New York, Amos, he was an Amish man whose farm was raided because allegedly one child got sick, and then they raided his entire dairy farm because they gave a kid raw milk and he got sick from it. So they raided his farm, right? Now, those people never vote, the Amish. They voted this go around because they're sick and tired of the government oversight and the government overreach, really. So people are sick of not having money. People are sick of going to the grocery store and finding that eggs cost $5 a dozen. They're sick of it. So if you're paying attention, you can understand why Donald Trump came out with such a victory. Everything the left stands for is extremely unpopular with the American people, and the witch hunt against Donald Trump only made him more popular. The more they went after him with these indictments and the impeachments, people just started to like him more. People love an underdog. That's the American way, is we love the underdog. And they do everything in their power to make you worse off. The Democrats do. And the voters are sick and tired of falling for it. And we're going to continue to get more support in these key demographics like the Hispanic vote, the Black vote, the young vote, the 18 to 25-year-olds. I was shocked about that one. The only demographic he did well with, and this doesn't necessarily mean they're educated, it's just people who go to college, which and that proves that these places are just nothing but liberal cesspools when they're indoctrinating our youth. That's what these colleges are. So that's just proof. Everybody else in the country voted for Donald Trump. The only people who did not vote for Donald Trump were white men and women in college. That's it. The Black vote, the Hispanic vote, everything went to Donald Trump. I do want to talk about that really quickly before I get into the California voters. They woke up one day, they decided that criminals should be treated like victims, and they made crime de facto legal. I think it was like Proposition 41 or something like that, and it was a law that they had passed after a referendum. A state ballot measure passed, and they made crime legal, essentially, that criminals could just be treated like victims. But that was painfully stupid, and they figured that out, and they had to backtrack, and then they had to make crime illegal again. The California voters did. So I want to talk really quickly. I was talking about colleges and how they're just indoctrination. It's just all indoctrination, and it's not necessarily educated people who are voting. They're not educated. You've got, and I'm not talking about your engineers, your doctors, things like that. There's people who go to school and actually come out with substantial knowledge and worth, value. They become doctors or engineers. But I'm talking about your gender studies, your humanities, or whatever degree. You can get like a degree in Taylor Swift now at college. These people are not necessarily educated people, and they all voted for Kamala Harris. And here's why. It's indoctrination. So we've got Christy Angleton. Her pronouns are she, her, hers, and she is a teacher at Illinois State University. She teaches early language and literacy. I'm going to read this. It's an email that was sent to me. Plans for tomorrow's class. So this was on November 6th. She sent this out to her students in the afternoon. Plans for tomorrow's class. Dear all, in light of the election results, the way many of us are processing the events as they unfold, I am altering the format of our class tomorrow, November 7th. There is no roadmap for the current situation, but one thing is clear. We will stop teaching in pursuit of equity and justice. What, Christy? Come on, you psycho. As such, I will be holding space tomorrow for us to discuss how we are feeling and what we might do to move forward in action. Class will meet at the regular time rather than focus on content tomorrow, rather than actually learn something. I will offer a space to work through whatever you're feeling in much the same way I would for children, through art, through writing, through conversation. What is this? If you do not feel able to attend, that is okay. This will not count as an absence. We will not focus on content tomorrow. That being said, it is important to bear in mind that upsetting things happen all the time and teachers are expected to teach the next day. This is an opportunity for you to experience some of the pedagogical decisions I am making that you may one day need to make in your own classroom. So these are teachers. So anyway, this is incredible. The decisions I'm making that you might make one day in your own classroom. So I know of people. Now, I was born slightly before 9/11, so I wasn't in the classroom, but my sister was. She's a little bit older than me, and she was in the classroom during 9/11. They were watching the towers go down. Okay, that was an actual attack on this country. It was a terrorist attack. Thousands of people died, and you were still in the classroom. You were expected to be there. In fact, people watched it on television in their classrooms. What? You're canceling class? You're actually canceling class because of the election results. Christy, what the heck is wrong with you? And then she's encouraging her students, hey, when devastating things happen, you should cancel class when you guys become teachers. This just goes to show you the habitual, I mean, this is a cycle, right? We're teaching our young teachers or potential teachers to do the same thing she's doing. It's indoctrination. That's wild to me. All right, I do have to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Woo! Hey, good morning. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9 The News and Talk of Bloomington Normal. Yes, the Illinois State University professor. Her name is Christy Angleton. She joins a long list of university professors from around the nation in canceling class, right? So they canceled class for November 7th, this early language and literacy class, I guess. She's supposed to be teaching, I guess, teachers. And this is what really gets me in this email. She goes, I will offer a space to work through whatever we are feeling in much of the same way I would do for children. She is emailing adults. These are adults in college. And she's just overtly saying that she's going to treat them like children. She says, I will do much of the same way I would for children. We are going to work through what we're feeling in much of the same way I would do for children through art, writing. So you guys are actually going to draw like cute little animals or pictures, and you're going to sit down, maybe sing your ABCs to kind of calm down. I mean, this is insane. So this professor, she joined a long list of university professors from around the nation who canceled classes, and they're providing safe spaces for students upset by Trump's victory. Hilarious. That's so funny. She's actually treating her college-age students. And this just goes to show you, just because college people voted for Kamala Harris, or people who, white people, by the way, who attend universities, just because they voted for Kamala Harris doesn't necessarily mean educated people voted for Kamala Harris, because I've been seeing leftists argue that point. They're like, hey, look, all of the educated voters, they're out there and they're voting for Kamala Harris. Unfortunately, the uneducated, they're just not aware of how bad Donald Trump is. They're just not educated. Right. This just goes to show you these people are not educated. Okay. People in college, that does not necessarily mean you're an educated voter. Okay. Clearly, because you have these students who are drawing colors and pictures and painting, finger painting in these so-called safe spaces. They're not actually learning anything. Okay. They're like actually willing to cancel class because of the results of the election. That's wild to me, because you've got people who watched 9/11 in the classroom when it was going on. So California voters, I want to get to this statewide ballot measure that was passed despite opposition from Mussolini. I like to call him Mussolini, Gavin Newsom. California voters, one day they woke up and they were like, hey, we really want to make criminals like victims, and we want to treat them like victims, and we want to make crime legal. But now, fast forward to 2024, they are beginning to realize how stupid that was with Proposition. I think it was like 40 something, 47 or 49. I can't remember the number, but there was a proposition. They voted on it years ago, few years ago, where they made crime de facto legal. But now they're realizing we got to backtrack. We got to make crime illegal again with Proposition 36. So statewide ballot measure passed despite opposition from Mussolini. And that what that ballot measure does, it reclassifies some theft and drug crimes as felonies. Okay, so before this was passed, anything that was stolen that was valued less than $950, it was treated as a misdemeanor. So according to the Post Millennial, a California anti-crime ballot measure that would reclassify some misdemeanor theft and drug crimes as felonies got overwhelming support on Tuesday, on the day of the election, November 5th, as voters moved to slowly restore. So they're slowly moving to restore law and order over the following years. They have seen what failed progressive policies do to their state. So, State Proposition 36 passed in a landslide after receiving widespread backing from voters on Election Day, with 70.6% of the 7.6 million ballots counted in favor of the initiative. That's millions, right? I mean, tons of people voted for this thing. Despite Democrat Governor Gavin Newsom's opposition to the measure, which authorizes felony charges for possession of drugs like fentanyl and thefts under $950 if that offender has at least 2 similar prior convictions. So it doesn't even make it a felony. So say you steal something, under $950. Okay, if you steal something, that's a misdemeanor. But it's your first time doing it. It would still be a misdemeanor if it was your first offense. Now, this only applies to people who had 2 similar prior convictions. You were convicted of stealing before stealing this $900 or something that's under $950. Only then would it be counted as a felony. So this isn't even like super hard on crime. If you ask me, what I would like to see happen if you steal anything, under $950 more than once, not 3 times, but more than once. If it is your second time, yes, felony. Heck, even, I think in some cases, it depends on how you stole it. If you stole it violently, your first time, if you steal something that's valued, if you go into a Target and steal a TV and you do it in a violent way, yeah, you should have a felony. Okay. I don't think that's controversial. People just don't go in and steal things. Now, if you steal a loaf of bread, right, from Target, there should be some protections for you if it was just one time, right? But yeah, if you're stealing flat screens and you do it multiple times, you need to have a felony conviction, okay? So California residents, they have expressed their desire for change. Okay, so they are restoring public safety. This new law seeks to address retail theft and open-air drug use. 2 significant contributors to the unprecedented closures of businesses in Los Angeles and San Francisco. Why would Governor Gavin Newsom, as Trump calls him, why would he be against this? What benefit do residents get? What benefit do they get if they don't pass this? Right. So there's also, with this passage of this measure, a new category of crime, which I actually am all for. I think that this is great. Treatment mandated felon. Okay, so if you are slapped with a treatment mandated felony, this is a new crime, a category of crime. If you are slapped with that, established under this new law that recently was voted on, it would allow for a conviction to be annulled. So it could be taken away, your drug conviction, if you complete rehabilitation. I love it. I love it. Yes, you have to provide proof of rehabilitation, get all the signatures you need from the people who are running the rehab center. The defendant must plead guilty and complete treatment to have these charges dismissed. Yes, I love this. This is rehabilitation, not punishment. This is actual criminal reform. Treatment mandated felon. You have to rehabilitate yourself in order to get your conviction annulled. Now, it's unclear how progressives got their constituents to vote against their best interest back when this was like Proposition 40 or something that actually like made it a misdemeanor crime, like theft and open air drug deals. Back then, I don't know how they got that passed, and how they got them to vote against their best interest back then. At least now we're slowly making progress as it pertains to law and order. But I would imagine that it was probably preying on emotionally weak people and getting them to vote for fake compassion for these criminals. That's really what this is. Back then, when you made them misdemeanors, you probably sold it as, hey, it's compassionate. It's compassionate. It's fake compassion. You're not helping anybody by allowing these people to not be punished in some sort of way or be forced to rehabilitate themselves. That's not the compassionate thing to do. So in another instance, Los Angeles voters got rid of their Soros-backed prosecutor. So this election cycle was I would say it's pretty good. They basically refused to prosecute any kind of crimes. This prosecutor in LA, this Soros-backed prosecutor, which Kim Fox was, and now she's no longer there. But the Democrats still got in. I'm kind of upset by that in Cook County, the state's attorney. I was really hoping for Bob Fioretti, I think is his name. He had some really good ideas, but Oakland also recalled their insane DA. So I think that it looked pretty good in California this election cycle. I do have to take a quick break, but we're going to be right back. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Hey, good morning. So do appreciate you tuning in. 25-year-old children. Yes. The fact that you have professors referring to or like saying that they're going to treat their college-aged students, 25-year-old students like children, that's concerning. That person should be fired for canceling class like that. And then also treating 25-year-old students as if they were children. And we wonder why. I share this story all of the time. I will never forget it. You get college-age students, 25-year-olds who can't even read and write. And they're, they graduate from high school. They're rubber stamped that, yes, go ahead, go on to college. They make it through freshman year of college. And then somehow, and this happened, I encountered a sophomore in college. She was a nice gal, but could not read and write. She was actually like not literate. She just couldn't read and write. And she had actually applied for an internship. And I, approached my faculty advisor. I said, hey, I don't think that we can continue to have this girl on because she can't read and she can't write. ... Don't know how she got here. Don't know how she was able to pass her classes all the way up to sophomore year in college, but she's here, and I'm not going to allow her to continue with this, because what I was faced with a decision. I was like, should I hold this girl accountable and fire her and say, hey, and I was willing to teach her. I said, hey, I'll teach you how to read and write if you need help. But I definitely think you need to get some tutor, or like you need to get a tutor when it comes to this. She really couldn't read and write. And she was a sophomore in college. I was shocked by that. And it's really unfortunate when you just kind of say, oh, yeah, we're going to give you a participation trophy and we're going to pass you out of high school. We're going to pass you out of freshman year. And you had actual college professors passing this girl and moving her along her academic journey when she should not have been moved along. She should have been held back at least a few years. I don't know how it gets that bad where you have a sophomore in college, no teacher, and that just is proof that the public education system fails epically. Epic failure. You get somebody who's illiterate in college. I mean, this girl could not read. She could not write. I thought it was a joke. I thought she was just kind of pulling my chain or yanking my chain, where she was, just doing like texting. So like instead of like what's up, she would actually like write like sup or something like that, and she wouldn't even spell that right. Like it would be SAP, and I was just like so confused. And then I asked her, if English was her main language. I said, do you speak English? She said, yeah. And I go, do you read and write in English? And she says, yes. And I had to sit down with her and ask her, hey, how do you spell this? Can you spell me this word? And it was the, right? I asked her to write the word the, THE, right? And I said, can you write out the word the for me? Like seriously, no jokes. And she did not know how to spell the. Like actually did not. So that was tragic. So these people are not necessarily educated who are voting for Kamala Harris in colleges, and don't make that mistake where the left will tell you, oh, but the people in college all voted for Donald Trump, which means the educated people understand that Kamala would have made an excellent president. No. In fact, I probably would make the argument that the people in college are dumb. Most of them anyway. And I'm not talking about the engineers or the doctors or people who actually provide value to to society. I'm talking about the gender studies or the Taylor Swift majors. That's what I'm talking about. So when we come back, we're going to talk about prosecutors and how they referred to Daniel Penny as a white man. Just totally ridiculous. We're going to continue with California. They had somewhat of a good election. I can't believe that they got rid of their Los Angeles Soros-backed DA prosecutor who basically refused to prosecute any crimes at all. Oakland, they also recalled their insane DA. And it turns out that this was somewhat of a good election for California. I would say they voted yes for this Proposition 36, which essentially makes crime illegal again. So I don't know why progressive voters elect sociopaths, but these people, I think, often suffer from Stockholm syndrome and they sympathize with their political abusers. During the election show, actually, if you missed it, which it's archived on YouTube if you want to go back, and I was reading a lot of local election results, but I had this song that would play on the radio program, and it's really good. It's by Alex Warren. It's called "Burning Down." It was originally written for, you're in an abusive relationship or an abusive household. I love this song, and it's really a song to your government. You tend to sympathize with your political abusers, and I don't know why people do that in these blue strongholds. All right, we're back. Woohoo! Hey, good morning. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9 The News and Talk of Bloomington Normal. You're probably wondering to yourself, okay, McLean County went blue, which I think that there were a lot of wins. It's unfortunate that McLean County is blue. It should tell you what McLean County is like in comparison to the rest of the state. The only counties that went blue are the really corrupt ones like Cook County, Lake County, where else? Kane County, Will County. There's only a handful of counties in Illinois that went blue. And here's what I don't understand why progressive voters continue to elect sociopaths. But these people, they suffer from Stockholm syndrome. I really do think that. And I think that they sympathize with their political abusers. Actually, during the election show, I used some bumper music, and I love this song. It's by Alex Warren, and it's called Burning Down. And it's actually written about an abusive family situation where this person is in an abusive family and has to leave the house because it's, burning down, and it's just burning all around him. I played it on the election show because really, that's our relationship with government. I don't understand why somebody would continue to vote for Sharon Chung. I don't understand why people would continue to vote for Dave Kaler. They are the reason why your county is burning down around you, why you have no money. Dave Kaler got in 20 plus years ago. He's been there forever, has claimed that he's going to lower your property taxes. You're paying more in property taxes than you ever did, especially more than you did 20 years ago. And he's out there and he's lying to you. He's just straight up lying to your face. He says that he's going to lower these property taxes. He has no intention of doing that. In fact, he turns around and then he gets it to where he circumvents the law that requires him to, or requires this body, the Bloomington Normal Airport Authority, to take it to referendum if they want to expand their tax base and have all of these rural counties pay for that airport. What he did, he circumvented that law, changed the law to where you don't need to go to referendum to expand the tax base anymore. And he didn't do this once, but he did it twice. He did it with District 87. You're supposed to go to referendum when asking to acquire a new building. And take it out of the property where that building pays property taxes, right? And then you bring it in, and then you have to pay for the maintenance of that building, the staffing of that building. It's going to raise your property taxes because that building is no longer paying into the kitty, but rather taking out of the kitty, of the tax kitty. So he did it again with District 87. Not to mention Sharon Chung. She voted for this bill that doesn't protect the Mahomet Aquifer when it comes to carbon pipelines. Okay, they're going to drill right underneath the aquifer there and put a bunch of carbon pipelines. Now they've come out, Dave Kaler, after, Chapin Rose, who was a senator, a Republican senator, who was screaming on the Senate floor, begging people to put protections in for that Mahomet Aquifer, your clean drinking water, by the way. These people are so abusive. They're such sociopaths that they're willing to lie to you. They're willing to steal your money and tell you that they're not stealing your money, but they're also willing to take your clean drinking water away from you and then have the nerve to provide a supplement bill after the fact, after they took away all of your protections for your clean drinking water, and then gaslight you into thinking that they're pro keeping your drinking water clean. It wouldn't be in jeopardy in the first place had you not voted for this back then. Okay, now it's in jeopardy, and now you're going to sit here and gaslight me and try to make me believe you when you say that you care about my clean drinking water. It wouldn't be in jeopardy in the first place had you not voted to jeopardize. I mean, it's just it's an abusive relationship. That's what it is, and these people are so beholden to an ideology that turns criminals into victims and creates fake guilt based on skin color. And when you combine those things, you have the People's Republic of Illinois, okay, the People's Republic of California. I don't understand why these voters, progressive voters, elect sociopaths. So I do want to talk about Daniel Penny. I want to get to this story because it's shocking. Here's a quote from the prosecutor, the DA there, Jillian Chartrand. Is her name there. She said, "Did the white man's arm ever leave Mr. Neely's neck?" That's a direct quote from the prosecutor here in New York City. Daniel Penny is, I think, on the second, third, fourth day of his trial, somewhere around there. He's in the beginning stages of going to trial. Now, it's not exactly clear why she's using the term white man here, this Jillian woman, the state's prosecutor. She should be using a term like defendant. Call him Daniel, call him Daniel Penny, call him Penny, literally anything else beside his skin color, because this is bias. Prosecutors should be looking at the law and prosecuting based on the law, not based on skin color. But Daniel Penny, he is standing trial for reasons that should have never made it to a courtroom. He arguably saved lives, and that's why he's in this courtroom. He saved lives. The New York City justice system is not what you would call just. It is not what you would call fair. And this white man, which the prosecutor referred to Daniel Penny as, white man, is being prosecuted for protecting strangers from an unhinged, dangerous lunatic on a subway rather than being labeled a hero, which he is, by the way. He is a hero, Daniel Penny is. And people went out and they voted for Donald Trump because of people like Daniel Penny, because people like Daniel Penny are being attacked by this justice system. So this woman, she filmed the entire event, and she said that Jordan Neely, the psycho homeless guy, he couldn't have cared less about anybody's life on that subway. In fact, he said, "Someone's going to die today," direct quote. And she testified that Penny stopped him before killing somebody, okay, on this subway. So state prosecutors claim that Penny, while perhaps well-intentioned, went overboard in his bid to defend other passengers from Neely on the train. Under the law, deadly physical force, such as a chokehold, is permitted only when absolutely necessary and only for as long as absolutely necessary. The prosecutor in New York City said it was Daphne. So there's several prosecutors here who are going after Daniel Penny. This prosecutor said that during their opening argument last week. So she said, under the law, physical force, deadly physical force, such as a chokehold, is only permitted when only absolutely necessary. This was absolutely necessary, folks. They were on a train. There was no stopping in sight right where this train, it was going to take a while for the train to stop. And this guy Daniel Penny acted for the safety of those passengers, and he should be labeled a hero. But he's on trial, and trial is expected to run into mid-December, so we'll be keeping you updated. But Penny faces charges like second-degree murder or second-degree manslaughter and criminally negligent homicide. So, question. Had it all been reversed, right? Would the prosecution be more satisfied if Neely did what he claimed he was going to do? Did the prosecution actually want this Jordan Neely character to kill people on that train? Would they have been more satisfied with Jordan Neely actually hurting somebody on that train had not Daniel Penny stepped up and stopped this guy? I think they honestly would have liked that more. They probably wouldn't have even prosecuted Neely had he killed someone that day that he had threatened. He said, somebody's dying today. And he was acting like a lunatic. What? I bet if that would have happened, had he killed somebody on that train that day, he wouldn't have even seen charges. They definitely probably wouldn't have referred to him as a black man if he had faced charges, right? So, I think that all of the answers to these questions. Had Jordan Neely actually killed someone that day, killed somebody that he had threatened, he wouldn't be referred to as a black man in that courtroom. He also probably wouldn't even see charges, to be honest with you. It's New York City. So the justice system is a joke, and it punishes people who don't acquiesce to the authority of dangerous drug addicts. Okay, if you don't bend the knee to dangerous drug addicts and you just let them randomly threaten people or kill people, if you don't bend the knee to that, then you're the problem, I guess. Up is down, right is left. None of it makes sense. It's extremely inappropriate to refer to somebody by their skin color when you're prosecuting them for a crime. It's morally corrupt. And that's it. The skin color has no bearing on what happened. We should be talking about, did he act proportionately to the threat? Okay. There's a place, right, for this. And I would say that, sure, Daniel Penny should stand trial. Yes. But the question should be not about his skin color and white man versus black man, but it really should just be, hey, did he act proportionately in self-defense? So to call prosecutors in this case sociopathic, which I think that they are sociopaths, that would be an understatement. These people are psychotic lunatics. The prosecution, to call Daniel Penny a white man during trial, I mean, what? These prosecutors should be prosecuted for the crimes that they're committing against the justice system. All right, I do have to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Yeah. I mean, it's not about crime, or it's not about skin color. It should be about the crime committed, if there was one, and they should get to the bottom of that. Sure, yes, let's have Daniel Penny stand trial, and let's see if he actually acted in self-defense. I think that you should do that. Anytime somebody dies at the hand of somebody else, it should be investigated. It should be prosecuted. But to get up there and to intentionally try to sway the jury of his peers against him by referring to him as a white man and making this about race as if this was racially motivated, that is just such an injustice to Daniel Penny. He really shouldn't have even been there, given Jordan Neely. I think he had like 20 felonies or something like that. He racked up 20 felonies, and you had all those eyewitnesses. Definitely shouldn't even be prosecuting him for this. Now, if you want to prosecute him for something smaller, maybe, or conduct an investigation to see if it actually is, acting out of self-defense, sure. But your investigation should turn up that he acted in self-defense of not only himself, but others. I mean, this guy got onto the train and said, quote, somebody's going to die today. I mean, come on. Aquifer already has issues, but if banks, farms, landowners can say workforce and economy are saving schools like windmills, solar farms, and anything ESG score related, money talks. Yeah. That's a big thing, this aquifer. And a lot of Republicans are pro carbon pipeline. You're going to get a lot of farmers that say I'm pro carbon pipeline. And I'm sorry, I'm going to be honest with you. It doesn't make any sense. Look up RFK Jr.'s documentary here where he talks extensively about these carbon pipelines. This doesn't provide value to anybody. It takes carbon out of the air, which is arguably bad for the planet, because our trees need carbon to live. and we need our trees to take the carbon out of the air, right? So, I mean, to take the carbon out of the air artificially, why don't we just plant more trees if we want to take carbon out of the air? So we've got carbon out of the air. They compress it, and it's actually a very it emits carbon, this process. So it's so funny that they're like, oh, it's going to take carbon out of the air. Actually, arguably, it puts more and emits more carbon in the air, because you have to take that carbon, you have to clean that carbon, liquidate that carbon, and shove it down into the ground. And this liquidation process, this cleaning process, actually emits more carbon than, it probably is even taking out of the air. So it's probably a net negative when you look at carbon emissions and what we're taking out of the air. But like I said, they're not going to be using the carbon. It's quite literally, we're just storing the carbon down into these pipelines and in these injection wells, and it makes no sense, absolutely no sense. Their justification for this, of course, doing this is it's all about money, first of all. But second of all, their justification is that this is going to be better for the planet. Well, I just told you it's not going to be better for the planet. It's probably a net negative. It doesn't actually take carbon out of the air. And arguably, it's bad for the planet. Now, natural gas we can actually use, right? Gas pipelines or natural gas pipelines. We can actually use that for energy, which makes sense. We aren't going to be using this carbon for anything. It's literally just shoving it down into the ground. So now, if we could use that carbon, liquidate that carbon, and actually use it for something, then yeah, I'd be all on board if it has a purpose. But other than storing it, a lot of people have money invested in this, and unfortunately, this is an actual environmental issue. When you have these leftists who are screaming, about solar panels, windmills, and natural gas and all of that, that's not actually, contributing to a cleaner climate. Avoiding things like carbon pipelines, that's actually going to contribute to a cleaner climate. And maybe planting more trees, that would contribute to a cleaner climate. But you've got leftists in Chicago. I mean, I think that they, next to New York, have the lowest tree cover of any major city, like of their size. So like they're just getting rid of trees any chance that they can in Chicago. And it's really bad for the children there, because they're coming down with asthma. There's quite literally a smog in Chicago because there's no trees to take all of that carbon and that smog out of there. Woohoo! Hey, good morning. This is Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Y'all are texting in. Shame on this prosecutor. This is a colorblind incident. Yes, Daniel Penny, he was referred to, of course, as a white man. To call the prosecutors in this case sociopathic, like I said, that's an understatement. Daniel Penny's trial is so unjust, and these prosecutors should just be prosecuted for their crimes against justice. You shouldn't be referring to somebody as their skin color. To quote the prosecutor here, she says, quote, did the white man's arm ever leave Mr. Neely's neck? So she could have used terms like, oh, I don't know, defendant, did the defendant's arm ever leave Mr. Neely's neck? Did Daniel's arm ever leave Mr. Neely's neck? Did Daniel Penny's arm? Did Penny's arm? I mean, you could have used anything else but his skin color, but she did this intentionally because she wants to put her thumb on the scale and she wants to tip justice in the favor of prosecution. And she's doing this, it was not racially motivated. I mean, he got onto the train and shouted, someone's going to die today. And then he grabbed this guy and put him in a chokehold. And if you want to argue, which I don't even know if you necessarily can, I'm sure they conducted an investigation and everything is going to point to, oh, Daniel Penny was acting in self-defense of himself and others. This guy should be called a hero. And I don't understand these charges. He's facing second-degree manslaughter, criminally negligent homicide. But even if you wanted to, run a trial here, and it's supposed to run until mid-December, if we wanted to, take him to trial and get charges and press charges against this guy, you need to be fair about it and not refer to him as a white man. and make this about race. You should be looking at the law. So under the law, deadly physical force of a chokehold is permitted only when it is absolutely necessary and for as long as absolutely necessary. So they should be arguing that. Did he hold him too long? Did he use deadly force when it wasn't permitted? When he didn't have to? I would argue, I mean, just looking at this, I would say, hey, if somebody says someone's going to die today on a train, and you're stuck with this guy on this train, and this guy is acting erratically, not to mention this guy, I think, had like 20 plus felonies, quite the rap sheet. Jordan Neely did. I would say, yeah, objectively, you had to use deadly force. This guy said, quote, someone's going to die today. And there was a woman who filmed the entire thing. Not once did. Now, you would talk about race in this prosecution if Daniel Penny had made some sort of racial slur, if he had talked about Jordan Neely's race at all, but he didn't say anything. He brought him down in a chokehold to save the people on the train. Oh, man. All right. I do have to, I've got to go. That's the end of the show, but I so do appreciate y'all tuning in each and every single day. It's a Monday through Friday show, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. Now, this weekend, I'm so excited because we are going to be out at Altman's Billiards and Barstools. I was there this past weekend with Santa. You can get your selfies with Santa. That's November 16th. We'll be out there. That's Saturday, so you guys can meet me. We're going to have prizes. You can get Festival of Lights passes for East Peoria Festival of Lights. It's a great show. So I'll see you at Altman's this weekend. Bye-bye. You guys have a blessed rest of your day.